GMGP, good morning, good people. Y'all could have been anywhere in the world, but y'all decided to wake up with us. You're sick. You're sick in the head. There's a lot of fantasy football shows out there, but I promise y'all, they not like us. Brock Bowers, you looked a little quicker than fast. What does that even mean? Redraft, Dynasty, best ball, high stakes, we got you covered. And that's MVS and Justin Watson with some of the dopest tools designed to help you cancel out the noise and dominate your leagues. If there's a white wide receiver named Antoine, sign me up. Maybe it's cultural. I don't know. In season or off season, rain, sleet, hail, and snow, comma, semicolon, period, next sentence, to bring you the most actionable and entertaining content on YouTube. You don't go buy the dip on the Titanic.
Quarterback that you love, D-Bro. One of the best values in fantasy football.
Prop bets with my man Jay Rich.
Is that yes, let's go!
So wipe the crust out of your eye, get you a cup of coffee. It's time to wake y'all asses up with Ray
and Jay
in the morning.
My God.
How good is
Dude.
he? How good is GMGP. It is Friday, Freaky Friday, Feel Good Friday, Happy Friday. It's GMGP Friday. Me, Jay Rich, Kirk Cousins, Drake London, Darnell Mooney, and the Atlanta Falcons getting it done last night in OT thriller. We got a lot of players out this weekend, a lot of players back, teams on bye. We got to talk about it, baby. We got to talk about it. Jay Rich, I'm feeling good today, man. I'm feeling good. I get a week off next week already in the start of the damn season. I'm taking a freaking vacation. What's up, Garrison? Garrison talking about it. The best Thursday night football game ever. I don't know if I'm going to go that far, man. That Rams 49ers one a couple of years ago still might take the cake. You know, the golf Mahomes game where they had like 50-something points? That one was dope. What's going on, Tyler?
That might have been Monday, though.
Oh, was that Monday? That was a Monday night?
That might have been Monday.
Okay. Cold World TDE in the building. Marlon in the building. Dynasty Empire. Rise up, Falcons fans. What's going down? This is the Wake Up with Ray and Jay show. We're going to have some fun. We got a lot of NFL news we got to talk through. We're going to preview some of the games, talk about some of the biggest matchups, biggest fantasy implications, starts of the week, players you need to fade, wide receiver usage, all that good shit. Jay Rich, how you doing this morning, baby?
I'm good, man. I'm good. It was a very exciting week in sports. It feels like every Friday we come on the show, we got to talk about Thursday because we got to talk about what happened. And this time we actually have something worth talking about. The Atlanta Falcons, the passing game smashed, and I'm sure we'll have a healthy discussion about the running game. And I do have to give a quick shout out to the Mets, who had a massive comeback victory in Milwaukee yesterday. So shout out to Mets fans if you are a Mets fan. It is officially baseball season. The wild card is over, and the matchups are set, Ray. I am very excited. Not so much for the AL, because we have 3 AL Central teams in the playoffs right now. So unfortunately for me, I am rooting for the Yankees. But on the NL side of the bracket, it is looking very, very good in terms of high-profile teams making it to the finals, or the World Series, sorry. But Ray, do you want to start with the news, or do you want to start with Thursday Night Football?
Let's start with the news. Let's hit him with the news. Are my Dodgers in the playoffs? Are my Dodgers in the playoffs?
Your Dodgers, wow. You're not even repping Tatis and the Padres, who swept the Braves in their series.
Oh, yeah. My Padres, baby. My Padres in?
Your Padres are in. I am rooting for the Phillies still. I've been Team Phillies for like 3 years now. I'm hoping they can get it done. Like the Dodgers, like the Phillies. I like your Padres as well. And the Mets, I'd rather not see the Mets, but if we get the Subway Series,
you're about to take
cool.
it too far. Give us the news. What do we got in the NFL?
Oh, I love playoff baseball. But we will start off with some good news, Ray, because I got to bring some good news to the people. And Trey McBride practicing full this week and should be active, clearing concussion protocol. And look at this beautiful photo of Trey McBride. He is so happy to be back. Was that after his fumble recovery in the end zone? Because that was too funny. But Trey McBride is back. David Njoku and George Kittle, though, maybe not so much. It was reported that David Njoku had a rest day yesterday. I don't know a lot of guys who have rest days on Thursday when they haven't practiced in 3 weeks, but maybe he will be available. George Kittle has not practiced this week yet, so hopefully he practices today, and both of their statuses right now are up in the air due to that lack of practice. Rashid Rice was placed on IR. We have to wait till next week till he gets further imaging on his knee once the swelling has gone down. Taysom Hill on the also unlikely to play with reported fractures in his ribs per Dennis Allen. So after that 2-touchdown performance, probably going to be without him for a while. We could see a full bell cow situation in Pittsburgh, Ray, because both Jaylen Warren and Cordero Patterson have yet to practice this week and are dealing with injuries. We know that Warren's been sidelined for a while, and Patterson popped up after suffering the injury this past week. So we could see bell cow Najee against your Cowboys, which could be dangerous for the Cowboys. It looked good against the Giants, but Najee and Justin Fields are a different type of competition. We also have Bijan Robinson, who's dealing with a knee injury and seems unlikely to play at this point. Austin Eckler will be returning, but Bijan Robinson, the better B-Rob, as far as I see it right now, is likely to be inactive with that knee injury unless for some reason he does practice today. We should get Anthony Richardson back. I don't know if you want Anthony Richardson back, but he does have the Jaguars, so it is a good matchup, and depending on his potential availability, his ability to throw the ball, more importantly, and if he decides to run against the Jags, will determine whether or not he is effective. Jonathan Taylor hasn't been ruled out, but he's expected to miss multiple weeks with his ankle injury. Ian Rappaport was on Good Morning Football this morning talking about Jonathan Taylor and Malik Neighbors, who's unlikely to play due to his concussion, saying that Taylor could be sidelined a few weeks after it was reported that maybe he could play. Hasn't practiced, but with that high ankle sprain, seems very unlikely. It was Jordan Rondon of ESPN who said that Malik Neighbors is still unlikely to play after not practicing and not clearing congressional protocol since Thursday. So he's still dealing with that concussion. Seems unlikely to play right now, but Daboll said they're going to take it day by day and see where he stands on Saturday and Sunday. Joe Mixon and Dameon Pierce both, Ray, still not practicing after Joe Mixon made an attempt to play last week. Thought for sure he'd be back this week. It's really not looking very likely at this point. Hasn't practiced yet. Maybe he can log a practice today and be okay. They have the matchup against the Bills, which is a very good one from a rushing perspective. Yeah. But without Joe Mixon, I'm not too excited about Cam Akers in the running game for Houston. Without him and Dameon Pierce, it's probably going to be a heavy dose of CJ Stroud, which is fine for my QB rankings, but definitely not great for the balance of the Houston Texans offense. They should have Tank Dell back, though. He practiced in full this week. And last but not least, Davante Adams. Reports have been swirling about Adams ever since he requested the trade on Tuesday, and now it is reported that he would be preferred to go to the Jets, but other teams are definitely checking in. We've seen teams like the Saints with Derek Carr. We know he's very familiar there. The Chiefs, of course, and the Bills, but the biggest issue is going to be his salary. He's owed $13.5 million, and depending on how much teams are willing to give up, will probably determine how much the Raiders are willing to pay him going forward to help mitigate that situation and, more importantly, the cap. So we'll see what happens with Adams. It still seems a little bit unlikely with his high salary, but if teams are willing to pay enough to get him, maybe the Raiders would eat, if not all, or pretty close to all of his entire salary for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I'm still on the fence that I don't think the Jets is a good fantasy spot for him. Maybe it's good for Aaron Rodgers, good for the Jets NFL playoff push, but from a fantasy perspective, I'm still not in on Davante Adams going back to pair up with Aaron Rodgers, his old teammate. Bijan Robinson, I heard the shot. I heard the better B-Rob. We will talk about that. And Rashid Rice, I just want to ask you, can you remember an injury situation this hush mouth as this one? I mean, we're a full week out from that injury and there still is no clarity. And a lot of people are asking me, Ray, what do you do with him in Dynasty? What do you do with him here? What are your just thoughts on this entire situation that seems to be, I haven't seen one, I can't remember one where we just don't know anything when they're required to report what it is, but they keep saying they don't know what it is. It just seems weird to me.
Well, I think that's where you get into like the semantics of competition and how you have to report injuries. I think it was never a question whether or not he would play. And so from a logistical standpoint and competition, they're kind of fine because he's not expected to play. If he did play, then they'd be in trouble. But because he's not going to play, they don't really have to report anything. Okay. Now, I think it is a little unusual because typically we're used to the next day, MRI, ACL, MCL, PCL, whatever the case may be. But every athlete is different, right? And maybe he does have really bad swelling. And I think the bigger story here with him is maybe there is some hope that it's not the ACL, but you really do need that swelling to go down to fully confirm what the extent of the injury is. And you got to remember, too, there is some times where we actually have to have a doctor go in and assess what the injury is. Once the player is determined to need surgery, they get the surgery, and that's kind of when you find out what the full scope of the surgery was and how damaged the knee was overall. So I think there is a little bit of aspects of both things, but it is a little bit hush-hush for sure. It's surprising, but I think we're just too used to knowing that Monday morning they get the MRI and we find out what the injury is. It's just a little bit atypical, but I wouldn't say it's uncommon. If you went and tore up your knee, you wouldn't have the results the next day, right? You'd have to wait, go see the doctor, maybe get a second opinion, and then finally be diagnosed with your injury and your recovery timeline.
Yeah, Jordan said, I don't think it's hush. I don't think they can see what they need to see. And then another comment from MB Prof says it's a bad thing that the MRI can't be taken because of the swelling. So, you know, that's what it seems like to me. I'm no doctor, I'm no medical professional, but it seems like if it's still swollen to this point, that it seems like it's not a good thing. But again, I'm not a doctor. I don't know, so I don't want to try to do that. It's just unfortunate because he was having such a good season, and for what it's worth, it's derailed at this point.
Yeah.
We did have a dope Thursday night football matchup between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Atlanta Falcons. Matt Ryan was being honored. You got Thursday night, Baker Mayfield, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and for the most part, the players that we wanted to perform, they smashed. There was some outstanding performances out of this one. The best we've seen Drake London play. We talked about this. I talked about this on the Trinity video last week about Darnell Mooney and those two being major parts of this offense and weekly having the flip. 1 week it could be a London week, it could be a Mooney week. This week we got both of those guys that were outstanding. So let's just start off with the top. This game, Jay, I know you were watching it before we started the show. I was watching last night, and about the 5-minute point left in the game, Tampa Bay had the ball. They were trying to run out the clock, and I was like, this one's over. I'm going to head in the shower, get ready, get out, and, watch something else. I get out of the shower. Kirk Cousins is on the screen smiling. I'm thinking, what the hell happened? It was just 5 minutes left in the game. I thought Tampa Bay had this thing. I had to rewind it, and all hell broke loose. So let's pull it up, Jay, and just talk about this matchup, the players in this one, how they performed, and how we're feeling about these assets and these players moving forward. Kirk Cousins, let's just talk about him. 509 effing passing yards. Jay, if I told you at the beginning of the day, Kirk Cousins was finna throw for half a ticket, man, $500,000. What would you would assume that Bijan got a piece of the action, scored a touchdown, did something in the receiving game. But my God, we were trying to write Kirk Cousins off, and he said, hold my beer. I'm going to throw the ball 58 damn times for 500 yards, 72% completion percentage. Talk about Kirk Cousins for a minute, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty ironic that this was the night that Matt Ryan was honored with it by being placed in the Ring of Honor, and Kirk Cousins went out and broke his franchise single-game record for passing yards. Kirk Cousins was phenomenal. Zach Robinson made the choice very early in the game to not abandon the run, but basically abandon the run. They ran hurry up for, I'd say, at least half of the game, trying to keep the defense off balance, and it worked very effectively. They had their personnel out there that they liked. They basically ran Bijan and Tyler Algier in drives so they could run that hurry up more frequently, and it worked to perfection. Like, there was some mistakes, there was some questionable play calling, but clearly this was the right game plan for them, and it worked out very, very well. You talk about all the pass catchers. I mean, pretty much everyone smashed. When Kyle Pitts is getting 8 targets and getting almost 90 yards, I think we can say it was a pretty successful game for Atlanta. It's really just comes down to the running game. And in games like this, when teams abandon the run, you hope that the top running backs can still be heavily involved. But for Kirk Cousins, I think this is an issue, though, Ray, that we're going to run into once again, where Jordan Love smashed last week. Dontavian Wicks, 2 touchdowns. Darnell Mooney, 2 touchdowns, right? Jaden Reed went off last week. So how does the market and how do the people react to a game like this? Because we know this is not how games are always going to be played. Kirk Cousins hasn't had a game over, I believe, 260 yards this season, and he had 500 this week. But what is promising is when you look at the week-to-week neutral pass rate for the Falcons, and this is from Pat Thurman of Establish the Run, 53% in week 1, 50% in week 2, 56% in week 3, 73% in week 4, and 79% in week 5. So in neutral situations, they're going to throw the ball more often, which only benefits all the pass catchers on the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah, listen, if you're asking me how I think this pass catcher situation is going to continue to play out, what's going to happen week to week, I'm not going to guess. I'm not going to give you what I think. I'm just going to tell you what I know. And you've got to look at the usage of those wide receivers. And look, going into last night's game, here's how it shook out. Here's Drake London, number 1 leader on the team in usage. Trinity scores 7.03, really good. Darnell Mooney right behind them. And what we saw happened last night, all that's going to happen is Drake London is going to move up the line some. So is Darnell Mooney. And I know that none of us really want to buy into Ray McCloud, but did you watch the game last night? He's going to be a part of the offense, probably a player that you want to say is better for a best ball format, but Ray McCloud was also highly involved. Kyle Pitts is going to move up. He's way back here. So the usage of these pass catchers has been clear since day one. It's been clear since day one. Mooney's a big part of this offense. He led the way with 16 targets, 9 for 105, 2 touchdowns. Should have had another touchdown. Could have had 10 for 130 and 3 touchdowns in this matchup. But I want these pieces. I'm excited about London. The neutral pass rate that you talked about keeps you excited for Mooney. And your boy Kyle Pitts got in the action last night, 7 for 88. Hell of a performance from Kyle Pitts. The bigger story for me is, what do we do with Bijan Robinson? How Josh Norris and I talked about this on Underdog on our Wednesday show, but he has not delivered, and we continue to rank him inside the top 5, the top 6 this week. I was lower than expert consensus rankings on Bijan Robinson. I had him, I think, outside of the top 10 running backs on the week, 12 for 61, and it's not an issue of talent. I think we all watch him, and you see he's gifted. He can make defenders miss. He's explosive. He's strong. He's everything that you want in a 3-down running back. But for whatever reason, they just don't stick and commit to using him on the ground. Maybe that's not how they want to play. And I think it's time we adjust in fantasy.
Yeah, I mean, they brought it up on the broadcast. It was Kirk Herbstreit who I guess was talking to Zach Robinson this week. And Zach Robinson told him that Bijan isn't really performing very well when it comes to that outside zone running scheme. And compared to Algier, Algier's more experienced and he runs it more effectively. And while we may not like that for fantasy purposes, if that's the case, then it makes total sense why they're going to use Algier. If he's going to run the ball more effectively than Bijan, if he's going to see the holes develop more often.
I know y'all are saying that, but I don't see that shit. Like when when I see them run, I'm not looking at Algier saying, man, that's the player that should keep Bijan Robinson from getting the ball 20 times a game. I'm not seeing that. I think he runs fine. He's a physical runner, but to sit here and say he looks more explosive, he looks better than Bijan, I'm not buying that.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that the OC is saying that Tyler Algier is better at running that style of running scheme than Bijan Robinson. He's still trying to learn and adjust to the new running scheme, which is reasonable. If he's never played in that system before and Tyler Algier has much more experience in that type of scheme, then that makes perfect sense because it's just a simple experience thing and Bijan will get there. But it's not something you want to hear from the OC either. If it's, an analyst saying it or someone else saying it, it's definitely something when the OC out is saying, Bijan is still figuring out that outside zone scheme. And it's definitely not something you hear in terms of transparency from coaches very often. So if they're going to use him, like Bijan still had 2/3 of the rush attempts, but you do see some of those come out of the pistol, right? Which is what Bijan is familiar with. And then you see Tyler Algier doing his stuff out of the outside zone. So it's just an interesting nugget from the broadcast
you're starting every week. Would you, is there a running back that you would trade him for? Would you trade him for, is there a receiver? Is there, it's just unfortunate that we drafted him inside the top 8 to be a dominant elite running back for us. And right now he's not performing at that level. I do want to talk about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers because Baker Mayfield was also very efficient on the night. Baker Mayfield, 80% completion percentage, only threw the ball 24 times, which, again, it feels Tampa Bay, watching them, they're winning and leading in these games, and there's not a lot of offense happening. Very efficient offense. You even look at Mike Evans versus Chris Godwin. Evans got those 2 early touchdowns. Godwin, 6 targets, Evans, 7 targets. We know what that's going to be on a weekly basis. They both had 60-something yards. Rashad White, outside of that long run, looked awful. Every time he got the ball, he was touch and fall running back outside of that long run. Bucky Irvin made a couple of a late snafu that did not help his team at the end of the game.
Yep.
What are your thoughts on these Tampa Bay Buccaneers that one week they look like a juggernaut, the next week they lose games to the Denver Broncos, they drop a game in which all the probabilities and all the analytics and metrics said they should have won? What to make of this team? And moving forward, where are you with Tampa Bay Bucks? I think Godwin and Evans, we know they're going to be locked and loaded, top 15 plays every single week. Rashad White, Bucky Irving, I guess it's still Rashad White until it's not. Baker Mayfield played well, Jay. Just give Baker a little bit of love.
Yeah, Baker played well. It's hard to watch this because it seems like you don't really want to play the Bucks on the road. You look at the two games that Baker's kind of struggled a little bit, and he did play well in this game, to be fair, but Atlanta's pass rush and ability to get pressure on the quarterback wasn't quite there. And the biggest thing with Baker is that I believe he ran for 46 yards in this game as well. So that is a massive X factor. When you're running the ball like that, that's, right in the realm of Jaden Daniels and Jalen Hurts' weekly rushing yard totals, which you don't expect to see from Baker Mayfield. And so if he's doing that, he's great. But he had the 3 touchdowns in the first half and virtually nothing in the second half. You look at how this team performed, and it's just weird that it was like a tale of two halves for them. They played so well, put up 24 points in the first half. In the second half, they only put up 6. And you're like, well, what changed? The defense wasn't playing you any differently. Jesse Bates had a ridiculous game, forcing 2 fumbles. Obviously, one was recovered late in the game. But outside of that, it felt like they could still do anything they wanted. They just tried to run the ball more than they probably should have and ended up losing the game because of it. You look at all these games, the 2 games they've lost, Ray, Baker was under 30 pass attempts in both of them. Or actually, he did go over 30 against Denver, but that was a ridiculous game. But these game against Atlanta and the game against Detroit, he was under 30 pass attempts and under 200 yards. Every game he's been under 200 yards, they've lost this season. Right, which is weird to think about. And I think you look at the success of this team, it is through the passing game, and they need to lean on Baker a little bit more going forward.
I'm just reading some of the comments about Bijan Robinson. What's up, Drew? Drew said when Bijan is the backfield, teams are stacking his running lanes. Algier isn't receiving that big of perceived as that big of a threat, so he's getting light fronts. Probably. Well, if Algier's getting light fronts, he didn't do anything with it last night. I saw Algier just bulldozing folks. We must have been watching 2 different games because I did not see him bulldoze anybody with 6 carries for 12 yards. Algier's a fine running back. We're not poo-pooing on Tyler Algier. I mean, he's a 1,000-yard rusher. He did that as a rookie. He's a very competent NFL running back, but there's a big difference between he and Bijan Robinson. And I would just hope that we get some sort of exclusive rushing ability from Bijan in the coming weeks. But so far, it has not come to fruition for us. Big game on tap this weekend between the Ravens and the Bengals. I believe this is one of the highest combined totals on the slate this weekend. I know it opened up around 50.5 points. I don't know where it's at now. I think yesterday 49. It was around 49.5 for that game. But let's talk about Lamar Jackson versus Joe Burrow. This is a division game. Both of these teams probably need to win. The Bengals 1-4 in the Baltimore Ravens. The Bengals 1-3 in the Baltimore Ravens 2-2. A division game. AFC North, Ravens, Bengals, high point total. We're expecting some scoring in this one, right, Jay?
Yeah, definitely. This is one that, you have to have on tap because every time these two teams get together, something always happens. And I think the bigger story for me is I was surprised to find out that Lamar Jackson is 4-1 against the Bengals and Joe Burrow when he plays. And it's funny because you look at both these quarterbacks, they both had their injury stints and haven't played in these games. So to get both of them healthy and playing is a sight to behold. But the biggest issue is that, and why we could see so many points, is the Cincinnati Bengals defense is really bad. You look across the board, 145 rushing yards per game. They're a little bit better in the passing game, but that still lends itself to the strength of the Ravens. The Ravens have the top rush defense in the league, only allowing like 50 yards a game, but they're still top 10 in passing yards allowed, which then lends itself to the strength of the Cincinnati Bengals. So I think we see a lot of points in this game. The question for me is, can Derrick Henry have another big performance, right? Because he's going to be the guy here.
He is RB1 for me on the week. RB1.
RB1.
RB1. Running back 1. The pass rate over expected versus Baltimore, teams don't even try to run. Teams don't even try to run against Baltimore. They throw. And then conversely, all the Bengals want to do is throw the ball, and you can't run against Baltimore. Baltimore wants to slow it down. We've seen this new look offense where Lamar Jackson is throwing the ball at a very efficient clip. They're establishing the run, and the advantage is clear on the ground. Baltimore will gut them. They will gash them up the gut. It is going to be a Derrick Henry game. Derrick Henry, Justice Hill. I'm firing both of those up. I got Derrick Henry RB1 and damn near Justice Hill inside the top 30 as well. I think this is a matchup where the ground game is going to feast versus Cincinnati. And on the other side of the ball, Jay, I talked about this yesterday with Norris that I've got Jamar Chase as the wide receiver 1 on the week. This is a
Ooh.
matchup where I do believe you can throw the ball on Baltimore. They are funneling targets to wide receivers. Top 10 in the NFL at points allowed against the wide receiver position. Give me Jamar Chase. T. Higgins is also top 20 for me on the week. I'm expecting a lot of points in this matchup.
Yeah. Do you have any interest in the pass catchers for the Baltimore Ravens? Or do you think they just
Zero.
run the heck
Got
out of the
Zay
ball?
Flower.
Because
Go look at the range.
the Bengals get
zero.
no pressure.
Jay, zero. Jay, zero. I've got Zay Flowers, I think 31 on the week.
I honestly don't even think I ranked him.
I got him.
I didn't even bother.
He's 31 on the week. I don't have a lot of interest. You're just rolling the dice and praying that you got the one that maybe scores a touchdown. But this should be a ground and pound game from Derrick Henry. And on the other side of the ball, just based on all the numbers and how the defenses are playing, Joe Burrow should have a good game as well.
Yep. Yeah, it should be playing to both teams' strengths and a lot of points. Massive implications for the division and potentially even for the AFC as well. After the Ravens beat the Bills, getting this win to have the head-to-head for now, at least, over the Bengals would be massive for their number one seed potential. They still got to get past the Chiefs, which will be tough. But the Ravens are in a good spot right now, even though they started off really slow.
All right, what game you want to go to next? Is there anybody else in that one? Really quickly, the tight ends, Andrews and Isaiah Likely. How are you feeling about those two this week?
Pretty much zero confidence, to be honest. This is where the reason why I brought up the pass catchers is because Cincinnati really struggles to get to the quarterback. They're dead last in hurry rate, which against Lamar Jackson is going to be a bit of a problem. And then they're third lowest in pressure rate. So they're barely even getting to the quarterback, and we know how hard it is to get to Lamar Jackson in general. So he could be standing back there for a while, and the pass catchers could have time to get open. That's the only reason why I bring it up. But to your point, at the rate they're throwing the ball, the pass catchers are basically worthless anyways. They're not going to get a lot of opportunity, and I think the King will do his thing again this week. But we can go to... You like that, eh?
I
like that little rhyme?
I like that. The King will do his thing. Where we at now?
We will be going to San Francisco, where the 49ers are facing off against Arizona. The Arizona defense, Ray, is one of the worst in the NFL.
Yes.
I think my biggest question coming into this is not whether we're starting Jordan Mason or whether we're starting Jawan Jennings, Deebo Samuel, George Kittle's obviously a little bit questionable. It's how do you feel about Kyler Murray? Because Kyler Murray should have had a good game last week. The Commanders' defense is playing better than it was the first 3 weeks, but he's been very up and down. And the matchup against the 49ers is not a good one, but we know he can still run. And do you have any inkling to bench him against this 49ers defense?
They are 23rd. The 49ers defense is at 23rd defense at allowing points to the quarterback position, only allowing 13.3 points to the QB position right now. So am I benching Kyler? I would not say that, but this is a very difficult matchup for him. And on the other side of the ball, from the wide receiver standpoint, because you said it's not about do you start Jennings or Deebo or Ayuk or Kittle? The answer is yes. Arizona's given up the 14th most points, 34 points per game to the wide receiver position on the season. So you are right. You do start your 49ers. There's not a lot to talk about from that standpoint. I'm not sitting Kyler Murray, but this is not a great matchup for him. But when you got the total at 50 points, and San Francisco's favored by 7.5, so they're still expecting Arizona to put up 20 plus points. You got to play him. It's not going to come from James Conner alone. So you still start Kyler Murray. It's a very good offense. It's a tough defense, but they're missing a defensive lineman. Hargrave is out. I think Talanoa Hufanga
and Fred Warner might not play too.
Fred Warner might not play. Hufanga's a little bit banged up. So yeah, it's a difficult matchup, but I'm not worried about Kyler Murray. You're starting Kyler Murray. You're starting James Conner. You're starting Marvin Harrison Jr. You're starting Trey McBride. My bigger question is, do you start Michael Wilson as a flex play as we have people on bye this week? Michael Wilson, here's the question. Michael Wilson or Brandon Ayuk?
Oh, so I have Brandon Ayuk higher than Michael Wilson right now.
Okay.
That was close. So I'm a little bit lower on Kyler this week. I think he will struggle. I don't think it's going to be a cakewalk for him by any stretch. And
right.
Honestly, I expect the Niners to roll. Like I have Jordan Mason as my RB1 this week. I think he's going to score 2 touchdowns, right? This offense is going to thrive against the Arizona Cardinals. And we saw what happened last week. B-Rob went crazy on them. JD5 was running all over the place. So I think they are really going to struggle in this game. I still like Purdy a lot. I have it Deebo, Jennings, and then Ayuk, but I didn't rank Wilson because I don't think he's going to quite have a good game. I even struggled to rank Marv because I think that Marv could struggle in this matchup, right? So I like him a lot, but I definitely had him lower in my ranks, and Kyler a product of that. And then even with James Conner as well. Like, I think while the total is high, I wouldn't be surprised if this team only put up like 16 points.
So Arizona's given up 27 points per game to the running back position, which is 7th most in the NFL. So this is a plus matchup for Jordan Mason. I'm with you. I got Jay Mason as RB2 on the week. San Francisco, conversely, is 11th at allowing points to the running back position. So James Conner should be fine. And I just want to show you this, because I know when you hear Michael Wilson versus Brandon Ayuk, that's a foolish conversation. It's easily Brandon Ayuk. Well, on the season, Jay, take a look at this. Would you look at where both of those players are in seasonal usage, weeks 1 through 4, Michael Wilson and Brandon Ayuk?
Looking identical. Good, Brandon.
I mean, legitimately on top of one another, and Michael Wilson is giving you a little more on a per-game basis. So just looking at the usage on the season of those two players, it's ironic that we brought that up, and they are literally neck and neck in wide receiver usage. We'll talk about Jennings. I've got Jennings inside my top 24 receivers this week. Debo is a top 10 receiver on the week for me. Where are you at with Juwan Jennings this week? We are starting him, correct?
Yeah, I have it 29, so I'm a little bit lower. I'm really into Debo this week. I think Debo can have a massive,
I got Debo at 8.
Week.
I got Debo at 8.
I was looking at some of the history against Arizona, especially over the middle. Like, he could have a very good game, and especially with that week back. He had a pretty good week last week against the Patriots. They didn't have to do a lot. I think they get him more involved, and especially if Kittle is out, that's when you could see the really big game from Debo Samuel, because we haven't seen a massive game from Debo yet, but we know they're coming at some point.
I think he only got 5 opportunities last game, picked up, I think, 70 yards, something like that.
He got the one big pass,
Yeah,
one big pass. It was like a 50-yard
pass
in the second half against the Pats. But again, coming off injury, playing the Patriots, don't need a ton. This game, I think they'll be more inclined to put up a big crooked number on the Arizona Cardinals, being a division opponent. And I really like Debo this week. But yeah, I have Ayuk and Jennings a little bit lower. I think we see a lot of Mason, and I have him ranked really high, and a lot of Debo Samuel in this one.
All right, we are going to talk Green Bay and LA, Washington and Cleveland, Dallas and Pittsburgh, Buffalo, Houston, and we'll see if we can get to the Bears and the Panthers right after the break. Y'all know what it is. We got over 800 people in here on a Friday, Feel Good Friday, Freaky Friday. Run up the likes, like the stream, and we'll be back right after the break. All right, welcome back to the show. This is Wake Up with Ray and Jay. You can find me on X at RayGQ, and my man to the right of me, to the left of you, at your boy Jay Rich on X. Make sure you're tapped into all the dope stuff that we're doing over here on the channel. Some really good pieces right now that are blowing up. Dynasty Theory on the channel. Make sure you check out Mitch, John, and who's the other guy? Dan. Mitch, John, and Dan. Dynasty Theory. They got a lot of dope stuff on the channel. This piece is really blowing up around Rashid Rice, buy or sell. And Scott Connor dropped that Eric All piece. And I actually tried to get him in some FFPC main event teams, load up on some Eric All. And you hear me continuing to talk about this show with Josh. So over the past couple of months, I've got a really good opportunity to partner and work with Underdog. So right now I am filling in for the great Hayden Winks over on Hayden and Josh's channel. I will be with them for the next couple of weeks while Hayden is out on paternity leave. And we're doing rankings every single week. I'll be doing the Start Sit show with Josh, and then I'll be doing the Sunday night recap show with Josh and John Daigle. So really dope opportunity for me, for DD, for our community, our fan, to bring more eyes and more attention on our product. So make sure you're tapped into everything that we're doing over there. And the DD Fantasy Football Podcast radio feed. Ty Declares trade shows coming out. Shane Manila, he does all kinds of dope stuff. Injury Pod with Jeff Mueller on Sunday. You do not want to miss that. One of the best injury analysts in the fantasy football game. So we just got a lot of content. College football, whatever you need, make sure you're subscribed, tapped into the channel. A lot of good stuff over here, Jay.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head, just about everything. Yeah, Ty's got his new look trade show coming. So for everyone who loves the trade show, a new look is coming to the trade show coming on Saturday. But Ray, we do have a fantastic game that I am very excited about. The people are very excited about it. We got Green Bay and the LA Rams this weekend. We got to see the next version of Jordan Love after his massive performance this past week. What are you expecting against this Rams defense that is first in rushing yards allowed, second in points per game allowed?
Yeah, man.
And the Packers, Ray, have the highest turnover rate in the NFL at 23%. So even if Stafford can get the ball out there, the Packers are still turning over players at the highest rate in the NFL. So where are you at with this game, and how do you feel about all these playmakers on the Green Bay side?
I'm all over it. I am all over this game. I want all the pieces. Jay, I am Josh Jacobs. I got him as a top 5 running back on the week. Jaden Reed, wide receiver 5 on the week. Dontavian Wicks, top 30 on the week. Just fire him up. Kyron Williams, top 5 running back. This is a matchup where I think a lot of points could be scored. A lot of points. The Rams' rush defense is awful. They are allowing the most half PPR points in the running back position. They don't even try to stop the run. Green Bay, I think they're down Jair Alexander. Their defense ain't very good. I think this is going to be a scoring bonanza in LA between the Packers and the Rams. 46-point total according to DK. What do you think?
I'm all over it. Yeah, you said Jaden Reed, wide receiver 5. I have him as wide receiver 5 as well. I got Tucker Kraft at tight end 4. I got Jordan Love as QB 3. I tried so hard not to rank Josh Jacobs in my top 10 because every week I tell you Josh Jacobs is not that dude. You can't do it. But this is the only week where it's like, okay, if there was a week,
points allowed.
It's got to be this
points
one.
Allowed to the running back position, 28 points per game allowed to the running back position. I am in. I'm in.
Ray, if he doesn't smash this week, it's over for Josh Jacobs. I'm out. I'm out. But yeah, I got him at 8. All the players are going to smash. The question, Ray, is how high would you go on Dontavian Wicks? You said top 30. I have him at 17 this week because I didn't want to do it, and I was desperately trying to lower him. But this week, for everyone who hasn't watched the ranking show with you and Hayden or our rankings, it is tough right now to rank a lot of players. There's a lot of guys out. There's a lot of guys on bye. And it's just a lot of uncertain situations.
17 on the week?
I do. I have him at 17.
Oh, man.
I have him at 17. If there's players you want to ask me about relative to him, I can happily oblige. But yeah, it is.
Give me the 2 right in front of him and the 2 right behind him.
Okay, so right ahead of him right now, let me find. Oh, the right ahead of him is George Pickens and Jackson Smith and Jigba, and right behind him is Cortland Sutton and T. Higgins and Garrett Wilson.
JSN ahead of him versus the Giants? Nah, man.
Yeah. Do you know about that Giants defense? Because they don't play a whole lot of defense.
They're not going. Here's my thing. And I don't think they're going to need all those pass catchers. No Malik Neighbors, potentially no Devin Singletary. I don't think they're going to need to throw the ball like that. I think this is a big Kenneth Walker week in this matchup. I've got K Walker, K9 at RB6 on the week. I just don't know if they're going to have to throw the ball that much. I got him really high too. And if they do, DK Metcalf is the primary target. He is the number 1 target, the number 1 read in that offense. I'm a little down on Seattle pass catchers this week, and it's not because I don't like JSN or Lockett. I truly think with no Neighbors, no Devin Singletary, they're not going to be able to operate an offense, and Seattle's not going to need to throw the ball like that.
Yeah, so that's where I think ranking them and talking about them is difficult because I'm totally with you. But I wanted to rank JSN relatively aggressively because the upside is still there against this Giants defense. If it's not DK, it's probably going to be JSN. And I think both could score a touchdown this week, which is one of the reasons why I really like both of them. But I am totally with you. Like, Kenneth Walker should smash this week. I even have Zach Charbonnet, I believe, is like RB23 because I think he's going to do things as well and potentially could score also. So, but yeah, I have Wicks ranked pretty aggressively because he's probably the number 1 touchdown threat behind Jaden Reed. And obviously, we know that Josh Jacobs is probably going to score this week, but Wicks would be my number 3rd option to score. And I think that Jordan Love has a massive game against the Rams this week. Massive.
Yeah, I'm with you. I am in on this game, and it better not let us down because we are all over this game from the receivers, The running backs, you sit back, you think, what could possibly go wrong? And you're like, shit, all of it once it happens.
And we still got Kyron ranked high too.
Yeah, and we still got Kyron high. I will say this, because I think about my girl Joe every time I think about this player. Joe, I know you're in the chat. If you're starting a Rams pass catcher, which if you are looking at the total, you're going to have to. Kyron Williams ain't starting. He ain't scoring 4 or 5 touchdowns. I talked about it on the show. I think Tutu Atwell is the play. He's getting the valuable yards. They're downfield. I know Whittington caught a lot of manufactured stuff underneath, a lot of crossers. I think he's a fine play as well in this matchup, but I would feel comfortable flexing Tutu Atwell and Jordan Whittington. I just want to say that for people out there thinking, do you play any of those Rams pass catchers? Tutu and Whittington would be the two that I would play from the Rams. And I have Tutu ranked inside my top 40.
Oh, see, that's
I mean, he's getting the work. He's getting the work, and he's getting the valuable downfield usage is going to Atwell, right? Just no matter. I'm not talking about no goddamn dynasty value. What you can trade him for. I'm talking about today, right now, the first week in October. You need some production from a Rams pass catcher in a game in which it's projected to be tight. It's only a 3-point. The Packers are favored by 3 on the road. I still think Tutu Atwell is a fine flex play this week.
Yeah, so to answer your question, he would be the guy for sure, and then Whittington would be second. How high I'd rank them, I don't have them ranked in the 36, but they would be close for sure. There's a couple guys, like the indie receivers. You talk about them. Would you rather start a Rams receiver or an indie receiver this week?
Rams.
Okay. I think I'm probably with you, honestly.
If Flacco's playing...
No Flacco. No Flacco. If Flacco's
Rams.
Playing, Josh Downs is a top 24 wide receiver.
Yeah.
But
Rams then.
Flacco's not playing.
Rams.
Yeah,
right,
I am with you. Next game we are going to is Washington and Cleveland, which feels like a very one-sided affair because I don't think we really need to talk about the Browns and their offense.
No, we got to talk about
Deshaun Watson. Okay, well, I mean, if
Washington
you want to.
By 1. Washington favored by point right now, 42.5 point total. So not a high scoring game. But let's talk about it because I believe, Jay, Myles Garrett is still not likely to play in this matchup, which would be very big for Jaden Daniels. Yeah, Myles Garrett, at least the injury reports earlier this week, he was DNPs. And the last report I saw was they're not sure if he's going to play. So I don't know if things have changed. But we want to see Jaden Daniels versus what we thought would be a really, really good defense. And they're not as dominant as we thought they would be coming into the season. How do you think Jaden Daniels performs versus this matchup at home? Denzel Ward, Cleveland Browns, no Nick Chubb. Good to see Nick Chubb on the field, though. We got to see Nick Chubb in some practice. And I'll just tell you, I know all data and conventional wisdom says fade that running back. But the way the season has gone, I need a little sprinkle of Nick Chubb, Jay, just in case he just defies the odds, as Nick Chubb seems to be the only one to do that. I think I need a couple of Nick Chubbs just in case.
Yeah, so you're saying you got a Chubb for Chubb. I like that, Ray. I like that. But JD5.
It's half Chubb, but it's getting there. It's getting there. Those high knees on the sideline is getting me a little worked up, man.
But yeah, we got JD5 against a solid Browns defense that's surprisingly only allowing 300 yards a game. Now, they haven't played great opponents. Jacksonville, the Giants. I mean, come on.
And
but
when
the running
Dallas
game
played
is definitely...
they lit them up.
Yeah, and to be fair, when you play against the Cleveland Browns, the strength is the running game. The question really is Bijan Robinson, because we'd all be starting Bijan Robinson. He'd probably be a top 10 running back in this matchup against Cleveland if he was available. But without him, it becomes more interesting how you'd attack this defense, because the passing game actually has been pretty good. Only 175 passing yards per game. We know that Jaden Daniels doesn't have to throw the ball a ton for them to be very effective. He's going to run as well. Austin Eckler should be back, but I don't think I'm expecting a high point total in this one, because Cleveland's not going to score probably on this Commanders defense that's playing much better every single week. And I don't think Washington's going to have to do a lot to win this game. I think they just survive this game on the road. They win a close one and get it done. JD5 probably still does fairly well with a touchdown or two, but nothing crazy, I don't think, from Washington's perspective in terms of points.
Yeah, people are asking a get-right game for Deshaun Watson. I know. Josh Norris hated my rankings of Cleveland Browns. I have Amari Cooper at 12. I had Jerry Jeudy at 28. This is a matchup in which if Deshaun Watson is going to throw the ball, he should be able to find success versus the Commanders, who are giving up the fourth most PPR points to the wide receiver position, 37 points per game to opposing wide receivers. Only Tampa Bay, the Minnesota Vikings, and the Jacksonville Jaguars are allowing more. Just the data, the matchup, you can throw the ball on the Washington Commanders. That defense is not stopping anybody. I know it feels gross. I know I don't really want to say it. I am not in on Deshaun Watson, but if there were going to be a week where he had some opportunity to throw the ball against the defense and be good, it's this matchup right here where they have a clear advantage just about in every passing situation. The problem is Deshaun Watson and the Browns offense has been pedestrian as well. So you're kind of banking on which bad thing is going to make the positive. The bad offense and the bad defense, where's the positive? You know, they say 2 negatives make a positive, Jay. Did you learn that in Canadian school? Did you learn that? Do you know
they say the opposite, actually, that 2 wrongs don't make a right and 2 negatives don't make a positive.
Well, 2 negatives do make a positive, right?
In math, but not in reality.
Okay. Point is, this should be a matchup in which Deshaun Watson, in quotes, gets right. But and to that point, Washington plays at such a fast pace. 50+% of their offensive snaps, no huddle. Go, 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 go. Pace of play, very fast, and it's a tight spread. -1 favoring Washington. I think it's a get-right game for Watson and the Browns, who are throwing the ball over-expected more than any other team in the NFL. They just pass, neutral pass. That sticks down and distance, doesn't matter. They're just going to throw the damn ball. That's what Cleveland is doing.
Yeah, and Deshaun Watson's probably going to take 10 sacks in this game as
Maybe.
well. Marcus is asking you, would you start him over Mahomes? That is Deshaun Watson over Patrick Mahomes. You like him. Apparently you don't like him that much.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
Just say no.
I don't know. No, I don't.
No.
Where's the
like
next
those
game?
Diddy parties? Just say no.
Let's talk about Mahomes. Let's go there. Let's talk about KC or is that a Monday night game? We're not going to talk about that.
That's New Orleans. Yeah, it's Monday.
Okay.
I think New Orleans is winning that game, by the way. For everyone who's listening now and not listening on Monday, New Orleans is winning that game. They are going to win that game in Kansas City. Book it. If I'm wrong, don't hold me to it, but I think they can win that game. But next game, we can go to Dallas because you're Dallas Cowboys.
He wants to know. Let's answer this question. Right now, gut feel, you starting Patrick Mahomes or Deshaun Watson?
Right, it's not even close. I didn't even bother ranking Deshaun Watson. That's how much I dislike him.
Okay.
I know it's funny that you're in on the Commanders defense because I was against the Commanders defense early in the year, but the past 2 weeks, they are much better. Dan Quinn has them playing a lot better than they did the first 2 weeks. So I'm not saying that I think they're really good now, but I think they're much improved over what we've seen. And so when you talk about a team that already struggles against a team like Jacksonville, isn't playing well against the Giants, I definitely have some concerns over what that ceiling is. I would not play Deshaun Watson over Patrick Mahomes.
Okay. All right, let's move on to Dallas and Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh Steelers at home in this one, favored by 2.5. Dallas on the road, 44-point total in this one. Cowboys offense. Well, let's start with the Cowboys defense, who they're not going to have. I do not believe Micah Parsons will play, and DeMarcus Lawrence is out. So the two best players on the damn team outside of Dak and CeeDee Lamb not playing on the defensive side of the ball. We already talked about Jaylen Warren and Cordero Patterson not being available. So this feels like it should be a Najee Harris run it up the gut type game. Unfortunately, Najee has been one of the most inefficient rushers in the entire NFL this year, just plodding his way every single week. You've got Justin Fields, who can do major damage with his legs. You've got a Pittsburgh offense who only throws the ball to 2 players, Pat Freiermuth and George Pickens. And you got a Dallas offense down Brandon Cooks. And hasn't it felt like as good as CeeDee Lamb has been, he hasn't quite been the CeeDee Lamb that we've wanted on a week-to-week basis, and it has nothing to do with him. I think it's the fact that Dallas has no balance. It's CeeDee Lamb or bust every single week, and if you take him away, get in his head, neutralize him, there's just nothing left. Fantasy-wise, I don't think this is a great matchup. I think there are a couple of players that you want to start, and then I'm gonna just tell you who I'm not playing around with. I'm not fooling around with any of the Dallas running backs this week. If I've got options other than Rico
Really?
Dowdle and Ezekiel Elliott, I'm good on them. I don't want to fool around with them. I'm not playing around with Jalen Tolbert. It's from the Dallas side, it's Dak, it's Ferg, it's CD, full stop. Pittsburgh side, for me, it's George Pickens, Justin Fields. You can go Freiermuth and Najee Harris, full stop. There's nothing really else I want from that game.
Yeah, I'm with you. Rico was in consideration for me. He's still like very low. I don't even think I have him ranked right now because I don't really want to go there. But there is talk, and I'm sure you've heard of this as well, of Zeke's work being scaled back a little bit more and giving Rico a bit more of the touches, at which point maybe he does become usable for fantasy. But with the split they have currently, he's not quite there, and especially the way this Dallas offense is playing, it's not very good. But against the Steelers defense, you can only start the studs. So it's CD, it's Ferg. Even Dak is questionable. I trust Dak enough to get it done, but it's a very tough matchup. And without CD really having a good game, which I think will be hard to come by against this defense, you're banking on, like you said, the Tolberts and some of these other ancillary pieces to probably score a touchdown to kind of help elevate Dak's day. And then on the pass catcher side for Pittsburgh, it's really just Pickens and Freiermuth. Especially in the tight end landscape, you kind of have to start Freiermuth if you have him. But outside of that, I wouldn't be starting anybody.
All right. Where are we going to next?
The next game we're going to is a big matchup, Ray. I'm expecting a lot of points in this one. We are going to Houston for a matchup with the Buffalo Bills. And I did want to ask you about Buffalo because they were riding high. They had the MVP of the first 3 weeks of the season, and then they got absolutely destroyed by the Baltimore Ravens. And in my opinion, Ray, really blew their chance at the number 1 seed in the AFC. Because losing a game to a team like the Ravens that is going to probably finish the season very strong after a slow start, losing the tiebreaker against them could be really bad for them. And now they have to go and play Houston, who, while their running game is not quite there because Joe Mixon is unlikely to play as it stands right now, Tank Dell is back. Nico Collins is playing like the best receiver in the NFL, and I think CJ Stroud is heating up. And while this defense for Buffalo is awful against the run, they have not faced a pass offense quite like this Houston one, and I think it could be a massive game for CJ Stroud and all the pass catchers.
Yeah, right now, Buffalo is second best at defending the wide receiver position. They're allowing the second fewest points to the wide receiver group. They are allowing the most rushing points to opposing running backs, and a lot of that is sparked by Derrick Henry. This should have been a great spot for Joe Mixon had he been healthy. It's still a good spot for Cam Akers, but I'm not.
Nah, we ain't doing
He's
that.
not Joe Mixon. He's not Derrick Henry. And right now, Buffalo, they've got 2 key defenders that were back in practice this week, Tyron Johnson and Terrell Bernard, the linebacker. They've been banged up. They've been injured. They were back in practice, non-contact, so I don't know if they're officially playing, but if so, that gives a boost to that defense. On the road, Buffalo favored by 1. That's kind of telling. 47.5 point total. Tank Dell coming back doesn't do anything for me with Nico Collins, who is still wide receiver 2 on the week. I believe I've got Nico Collins in this matchup, which looks like a tough matchup for opposing wide receivers. But like you said, outside of Arizona in week 1, they haven't faced a passing attack like this. Now, Houston, they've got to limit the turnovers. I mean, the penalties. They are just a penalty-laden team. Right now, they've got to get some things together. Their defensive side of the ball, at least the pass defense, not bad for the Houston Texans as well. I think this is going to be a good game. Stephon Diggs' revenge game. I'm not going to go as far as to say that, but he is the slot receiver. They utilize him in a lot of creative ways in the red zone. I wouldn't be shocked if he gets in the end zone this week. I think Diggs is a fine play. You're starting Nico Collins, no doubt about it. If you've got to flex Cam Akers, cool. Tank Dell, I got him as wide receiver 40, much, much lower on the week. He's got to stay out there because he can strike on any given play, but we know what the pecking order is in the Houston Texans wide receiver room. Buffalo side of the ball, James Cook, you're running him out there. Dalton Kincaid, you're rolling him out there. Khalil Shakir, 2 DMPs, a little concerning.
Definitely.
Curtis Samuel, Keon Coleman. What do you think?
I don't mind Coleman with the touchdown upside.
Okay.
Like I think based off this week, especially expecting a lot from Houston. You brought up their rank against receivers. I mean, they played the Cardinals, They played the Dolphins when they destroyed them.
I know.
They played the Jaguars. I mean, come on. And then the Ravens didn't even have to pass against them to win the game. Right. So it's kind of like when you talk about playing Carolina. Carolina's pass defense isn't that bad, but it's because they allow the most rushing yards in the NFL.
Correct.
So it's just kind of the way things shake out. But I do think Houston's going to have to pass, and they're going to find a lot of success. But I'm with you. Tank Dell is pretty far out there. Shakir is the only one I'm really considering. But I think Coleman, especially if Shakir doesn't play, has the touchdown upside and probably will see some more targets as well. But obviously, have to start Kincaid, and you got to start Josh Allen because he's going to do something crazy, and we're just waiting to watch it happen.
Mile High Luke said every game is a Diggs game. There you go. Every game is a Diggs game. Let's wrap this one up talking about the Panthers and the Bears. And I am sneakily fantasy excited. You're womp-womping it. I am fantasy excited.
This is an awful game.
No, this is great for fantasy. What are you talking about? Andy Dalton, since coming back, this offense is rolling. You've got multiple pass catchers, Xavier Legette and Deontay Johnson. I'm telling you right now, start both players. Chuba Hubbard is locked and loaded, top 12 running back on the week for me. DeAndre Swift, top 18 running back on the week for me. Now, the pass catchers for Chicago, much lower down the priority list. This Shane Waldron thing is real. This thing is real, and I talked about this on the wide receiver usage video last week. Keenan Allen coming back just thwarts everything that Rome Odunze was doing, and he went back to dust, back to nothing, because they're going to force the ball to Keenan Allen. And DJ Moore not being used creatively. I want Panthers, and the Bears are favored by 4? You're giving me +4 for Carolina? I think that, give me that. Give me the points in Carolina, man.
Yeah, so Chicago is at home, right? And I think the reason why I'm a little bit down on the Carolina pass catchers is because the Bears only allow 174 pass yards per game. And we know that this Bears offense isn't going to put up a ton of points. So it's not like they're going to blow out the Panthers. We don't expect that. The question, Ray, is when and how high would you rank DeAndre Swift? I already just brought up how the Carolina Panthers rush defense is the worst in the NFL. They should be able to run on this team very easily. And if you're Shane Waldron, how do you not rely on the running game with how good Swift looked last week and with the matchup this week? So while I do like Deontay Johnson, it was hard to rank him super high, knowing that he's probably going to see a hell of a lot of Jalen Johnson. And then Xavier Legette playing in a tough matchup against this Bears defense, I think that Dalton could struggle a bit because he's going to be pressured a lot. And especially if the Bears do decide to run the ball, it's going to make the game a bit shorter on the other side as well. And I also like Chuba Hubbard. I think Chuba Hubbard can have a fine game. He's been great so far. Right? So
top 12.
You got Swift probably going to have a good game. Chuba probably going to see a lot of touches and have a good game. I just don't think we see a lot from the pass catchers on both sides. The only one maybe you see something from is DJ Moore for me. I think he's got the highest chances of scoring a touchdown. Outside of that, you play Deontay because he's going to get the targets, but the upside for me isn't quite there week 2, as we've seen in previous weeks for Deontay Johnson. And Legette, I'm probably not playing if I can help it.
Panthers allowing the second most PPR points to the running back position, 31. Chicago allowing the 9th most, 25 points per game to the running back position. And because of that, I do believe that will open up the play-action pass, which Andy Dalton has done well. This is a completely different Carolina offense with Dalton. I think you start Deontay Johnson. I have no problem starting Xavier Legette as a flex play, and I'm 100% rolling Chuba Hubbard out there as a top 12 running back on the week. You asked how high for DeAndre Swift. I told you he's a top 17 running back on the week for me. This is a very good matchup for opposing running backs. And you saw DeAndre Swift. They tried the Roshan thing. And they were like,
that extended look, right? How long did that last?
Let's get Swift back on the field. I think Johnson at Roshan is fine, but as bad as you think Swift is, he's better than Roshan Johnson. I am good with firing up just about all those Panthers. And if Vegas is right and Chicago gets up and they've got a lead, it's going to force the Panthers to throw the ball only a little bit more. Points, I'm not as worried about it as you. Give me Andy Dalton and those Carolina Panthers pass catchers. And from the Chicago side of the ball, really, it's DeAndre Swift for me is the only one that I have a ton of interest in, being quite honest. DJ Moore if I have to, but the usage and the way that Shane Waldron is deploying these wide recievers has not been fruitful for fantasy. You add Keenan Allen in, it's just another wrench in the plans, man. It's just crazy. So some of the games that we didn't touch on, Giants in Seattle, we talked about that a little bit. Denver and Las Vegas. Anything you want to say about Denver and Vegas?
No, that game is disgusting, and I don't even want to watch it. I will watch it, I don't want to. How do you feel about Bo Nix? Do you think he can have a good game? That's really the only guy I'm targeting.
Yeah,
I had
versus
Cortland
the
Sutton
Raiders,
pretty high.
I think he could be fine. I think he could be fine.
He'll run a bit. I like Sutton. I think Sutton's
worried
probably
about
a top 20
Jacoby
option.
Myers with Patrick Surtain. You just can't throw on him. You cannot throw on him. So I think from Denver, I've got Javonte Williams ranked aggressively high with Tyler Beatty out. Jaleel McLaughlin's not doing a ton. I've got Javonte Williams as a top 20 running back on the week for me. So I've got Javonte high.
Yeah, I got him
Trey
21.
Tucker flex play. Quickly, Indy and Jacksonville. Jacksonville 0-4, man. Wow.
Right, you want my hot take? Do you want my hot take?
Hot take.
Where do you have Brian Thomas ranked this week?
23, 24.
I have him at 8. I think he goes nuclear on Indy this week. He was the one player that I was trying really hard to not rank that high, but with all these different situations, I'm like, if there was a week that Trevor Lawrence got right and Brian Thomas had a big game, it would be against the Indianapolis Colts, in my opinion. I think it's very bold, and it's one of my more bolder spots in the rankings, but I think Brian Thomas can have a massive game this week. Because Indy's defense is not good.
My only issue is opponents' pass rate over expected versus Indy. It's negative. They don't even have to throw the ball. They just run it. And Tank Bigsby versus the Travis Etienne debate. At home, they may just say we need to run the ball. That's a bold take. I thought I was bold with top 24. Jets. Well, let's go Miami, New England.
Right, who are you starting at running back? Ramondre Stevenson or Antonio Gibson? Because Jared Mayo seems to be on the fence right now about who he wants to start with all these fumble concerns.
This entire game feels like a smooth avoid from all angles.
I just can't wait for the Patriots to win this game.
I got Tyreek
and
at
ruin
21.
their draft pick.
If you watch the tape, if you watch the tape, there were 3 missed clear walk-in touchdowns from Snoop Huntley to Tyreek Hill. At least 2. Clear just misses, wide open. It's not going to be good.
Hit him this week?
It's not going to be good, but I expect it to be a little bit better versus this defense that New England's not very good either. These are 2 bad teams. Somebody has to score 36.5 points in this one. New England favored by 2. I've got Tyreek at 21. Waddle is unranked. Unranked. Tyreek is at 21.
Rank Waddle. Yeah, I got Tyreek at 31 because you got to rank Tyreek somewhere. But he's going to see Christian Gonzalez, Ray. And I keep telling you, Christian Gonzalez is shutting down those top receivers. I don't think he's going to shut down Tyreek Hill. But with Snoop Huntley playing quarterback, I think he could have a pretty decent performance. But yeah, I'm not expecting much from him at all. Get to the next game, though, because this is an absolute do not watch. It's going to be gross. It'll probably be 10 to 13.
One, the Jets-Vikings?
Oh, no. The Jets-Vikings should be interesting. How many points did the Jets lose by?
It's only a 40-point total. This is one of those. I've got Garrett Wilson barely inside the top 20. I've got Mike Williams inside the top 36.
Okay.
I've got Breece Hall at 5.
Okay.
This is one where, like, everything that they do, this is just a weird game. I do not think that the Jets are going to be able to throw the ball all over Minnesota, even though Minnesota's pass defense, technically by points, is pretty damn bad. They blitz a lot. I think Rodgers is going to have to get it out quickly. And if you look at the usage of the Jets pass catchers over the last 2 weeks, Mike Williams is a big problem. Like, they are throwing those back. Josh Norris talked about it. He's like, man, I went back and watched all the Mike Williams targets, and Aaron Rodgers and he are connecting on those back shoulder fades. It looks like they want to get Big Mike involved. So,
yeah, they said it last week. They said they want to get him more involved in the offense. And I think the scary part, Ray, if I was ranking Rodgers' trust in receivers, Alan Lazard, number 1. Mike Williams, number 2. Tyler Conklin, number 3. Garrett Wilson, number 4. And imagine if you get Devontae Adams.
Yeah. I think there could be some fantasy points in this one. I'm just not expecting a ton from Wilson.
How you feel
because
about Addison?
I've got him inside.
The question mark for me.
Yeah, I got him inside the top 40. So he's there as a flex play, a wide receiver 3. Mike Williams there. Garrett Wilson, same with him. And I've got low interest in Aaron Rodgers this week if I had to play him. Same. So there we go. Yeah. We did not talk about Kansas City, New Orleans. That's the Monday night game. We will talk about that. Well, hell, we won't talk about that on Monday because I won't be here. So quickly, Carolina versus New Orleans. Jay Rich, round us out with this one. Let's just go. Who are you starting? Are you starting Kareem Hunt? Answer is yes. Top 20 running back of the week for me.
Yeah, I have Kareem Hunt at 13, Ray.
I've got him at 19, I think, on the week. I've got Kareem Hunt at 19. Where'd you put Kamara?
Because Kamara
I ranked Kamara 9.
very high.
I got Kamara at 9. I'm a little lower.
He is injured. You're not benching him, but he is injured. So I haven't ranked very high of him at 2 because of the upside. But
shit.
I like him a lot, and if he's available and healthy, he's gonna smash yet again. But the question for me really is Carr. I like Olave a lot. I have Rashid Shaheed high.
I'm just telling you, the fewest points allowed to the running back position in the NFL, the Kansas City Chiefs, only allowing 12 PPR points to the running back, the fewest, lower than Pittsburgh, Detroit, and Denver. This is not a good. I'm lower than consensus on Kamara. This is a tough matchup for the Saints, and if Carr can't throw the ball, they're going to stack the box and dare him to beat him over the top, and Kansas City is the most difficult opponent right now for opposing running backs.
Yeah. No, I still like Kamara a lot. The matchup for me is irregardless now. He's going to catch his passes, and that's why I really like him. Yeah. It's not about the data. Is that I really like this matchup. I think that KC is reeling, and they're due to really struggle. And more importantly,
how are they reeling? They're 4-0.
Every game they've played in has been
and they find a way to win.
At best.
And they find a way to win.
Mahomes has 5 picks, and New Orleans is 3rd in the NFL in turnover rate. So when we have this defense that is a great defense and is capable of big performances, and if Mahomes is going to be playing sloppy football, I think the Saints will make them pay. I really do. I think the Saints will make them pay. The question for me and to you is Worthy. I have Worthy at 22. I don't see a world where he doesn't see a decent amount of opportunity. Like without Rashid Rice, he has to be the guy that gets extra looks and extra opportunities. The question is, what does he do with them? I don't know. I mean, Kelsey obviously
somebody
ranked
else
very
is going to catch the ball. Who's it going? Let's call our shots. Somebody else is going to catch the ball.
You think it's going to be Juju though?
Is it Juju? Is it Justin Watson? Is it Sky Moore? Is it Noah Gray? Eliminate Kelsey. Put Kelsey out the way, right? Mahomes is going to complete 20-something passes. Kelsey's going to get 7 or 8 of them joints. Kareem Hunt to catch a few out of the backfield. Who's going to be next up? It's easy to throw Worthy out there, but is it Justin Watson? Is it Juju? Is it Sky Moore? Is it Noah Gray?
I would probably bet Juju or Worthy. I want to say Worthy personally, right? I do. I want to say it's going to be Worthy. I think that's why you drafted him, to utilize him in a situation like this. It's been 4 weeks. He should be a much better understanding of the offense. He hasn't been overly involved because of Rashid Rice. Rashid Rice isn't playing in this game. He has to be the guy that steps up because they already know what Juju can do and they know his limitations. If they put Worthy in a role that gives him 15 touches, he's probably going to have a great game. The question is, do they trust him to do that? But it's between him and Juju for me. How do you feel about that, though? Are you kind of leaning the Juju side? I wouldn't pick Justin Watson, though. It wouldn't be Watson.
I think it feels like Juju, but I don't. I'm just guessing. Like it's just the straight. I'm pulling shit out of my ass.
Yeah.
I'm just flat out guessing.
Yeah.
Probably Kelsey Worthy
slot, right?
and Kareem Hunt. It's probably Kelsey Worthy and Kareem Hunt. Other side of the ball, you're firing up Rashid Shaheed, you're firing up Chris Olave, and you're not fooling around with the tight ends from the Saints. And I would not be playing Derek Carr versus this defense. So that's where I'm at with it. That's where I'm at with it. All right. That is the show. Hit the music, Jay. Hit the music. Appreciate everybody tapping in this week. It's been a good week. I saw Garrison ask, where's the usage video? I'm going to do that today. It's been a long week getting stuff prepped. Usage video will be out today. I got y'all covered. Remember, no show next week. I am out all week next week. We will be at Disney with the kids.
Disney, baby.
Yeah, we'll be back in a week. So following all the stuff next week, we'll be back right on schedule. But stay locked in. We're going to have a lot of content hit the channel. Scott Connor, the Dynasty Theory crew. We've got the new All Gas Trade Show. We've got a lot of content that will continue to hit the feed on the podcast radio feed. Make sure you subscribe to that. Check everything out that we do over here at DD Fantasy Football. And if you want the best fantasy football usage tool in the game, go to ddfantasyfootball.com. $9 a month. Trust that Trinity. Jay, anything you want to say to people before we get out of here?
No, man. Enjoy the weekend. Watch some playoff baseball, please, because it's going to be electric this year. I think it's going to be a great couple of series. But we have NFL football this weekend. Ray, is there anything in the college world this week? I haven't seen any big previews of games. I'm not seeing a whole lot in college this week, but feel free to correct me if I'm wrong.
College football is just dope. Y'all just enjoy the week, and don't forget about us. We'll be back in a week. Y'all have fun. Enjoy week 5. We out. Peace.